Panharmonicon presents a podcast.
Did they play the Sonny and Cher song in the movie? I don't
They
remember
didn't,
this.
but I was hoping that like I could somehow continue doing that and then start to be like, hey, Power Rangers, babe. That's not. It's too many syllables. I probably have to do some word finessing there.
I will say, unlike the other two movies, I don't remember a single song.
I don't
From
either.
this movie?
I was thinking about it coming up to it, and I was like, what song can we start off with?
That means there's no song today, folks.
Did they do that one song? For you, for you. Did they use that song at any point in that? Or maybe I'm thinking about The Amazing Spider-Man.
I think that's The Amazing
that was
Spider-Man.
It was like a
'cause-
montage of Peter Parker skateboarding with his powers.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't know.
The music was very like fifth thing they worried about in this movie, if even that. I'm sure it had a soundtrack. Probably one a whopping like wood on the charts.
It had to have.
Probably. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Panharmonicon Studios Presents
A podcast.
I am Damon,
And I'm Farron.
and today is, I guess we're going to say it's the last episode of our Power Rangers retrospective. Technically, there is another movie, but since it's like direct to Netflix, I probably won't really count it as a movie. But today we are doing Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 2017. The return of Saban after years of Disney being the ones that were at the helm of Power Rangers, and what Saban thought might be I guess you would say, hopeful relaunch of his Mighty Morphin Power Ranger franchise. Did you recently see it, or did you see it like a while back when we like kind of first were talking about this?
I watched it again. I believe it was last month, actually. So I've kind of recently watched it. I've seen it a couple times after its initial release, plus initial, yeah.
I think that one time that I saw it was the first time I had seen it since the theater. I've only watched this movie twice ever.
Oh, sorry, the way you phrased that
Was like the first time
ever
No, we
seeing
definitely saw it in theaters
it?
together, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you think about it?
I had not seen it. I enjoyed it. Well, let me say this. I don't know if I enjoyed it so much as I enjoyed the potential that was there. I think I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed the movie, but where it could have gone in that film, in the first film, where it could have gone in potential sequels that we know are not going to happen, I'm very sad that we don't get to see that.
Yeah. I mean, like, it wasn't a knock your socks off type movie, especially having come out, like, we're talking like in the midst of like the Infinity Saga, like highs of like Marvel movie making. So you get this movie and you're like, well, this isn't that, and it didn't need to be that. It is sad that it didn't get a sequel. It's sad that the vision that the directors had didn't really like actually get to pan out beyond this one movie. But at the same time, it is a question of what was going to happen, because this movie takes the 1993 franchise and it just pushes it in a way that it wasn't before. I'm sure for a lot of like probably like 2010s kids, maybe even like 2000s babies, this is their Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. This is the way that they see Mighty Morphin. And for that, like, that's a cool thing, because that means that this franchise has gotten its, like, the ability to, well, up until a certain period recently, stand the test of time and seemingly be something that could be ethereal. That being said, when I first saw it, it was not my cup of tea. I was very against this movie. And I was against it because obviously I was there back in 1993. I was there when everyone first started talking about Power Rangers, and I had a very cemented idea of what Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was.
Yeah.
If you really think about it, this movie actually encompasses the concept of the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers probably better than the 1993 does. But at that time, I was like, you know what? I mean, this is like why we need this. This shouldn't have to come out.
Yeah.
Why couldn't you do something that you were doing like concurrent, like current at that period of time? I think Power Rangers fans, I will like forgive me. I don't know my like 2010 Power Rangers all that well. I want to say either he had just gotten back a hold on, had done Samurai, or they had moved into Megaforce, or like, Megaforce. I'm not sure which one it was, but I think Samurai would have been a good like movie to recreate. That being said, when I got to watch it recently, it is better than I gave it the credit for back in 2017.
Mm-hmm. Especially, do you think at this time you were just kind of able to let it be its own thing? I shouldn't say necessarily its own thing, have its inspiration, obviously, by the property that, we grew up with, but not looking at it, well, they would have done this in 1993, they would have done this in 93, they would have done this, and...
Yeah, definitely. I look at it like... I look at it in, I think, a lot of the way that I look at TMNT Mutant Mayhem, the one that just recently came out, in that it is a different take on a known thing.
Yeah.
And this isn't like a situation like in Power Rangers where you're like, oh, they're no longer wearing the suits, it's now Zeo or anything like that. It is taking something from the past and saying, I want to put this new spin on it, and then being able to do it successfully. How successful? I mean, I guess we know it wasn't super successful, but I would say critically, it did its job. It also had a lot to work off of, and that shows in the movie itself. In my notes, unlike in any other movie we've done, for some reason I did this one like straight, like as I was watching it. Usually I kind of watch the entire movie, get my thoughts together, and then write notes.
Yeah. This
one I was writing notes literally like
as you're doing
scene by scene.
Yeah. I find I do it that way more often than not. I'm just, it takes me forever because then I pause like 2 minutes later. And like, oh, I want to talk about this. Yeah.
And as such, I think I was a bit more critical than I wanted to be by the end of the movie. So much so that like literally at the end of it, I say, what did I say here? I hate the suits. And I still hate the suits. However, even though I hated the suits, for me, the movie, and I think the reason that I didn't like it the first time, but I liked it this time, is how much it didn't feel like Power Rangers in between the opening scene and when they morph. Up until that time, it is like between those two posts, it is a mixture of not Breakfast at Tiffany's, The Breakfast Club. Breakfast at Tiffany's would be a crazy, but it's a mixture of The Breakfast Club, Chronicle, and like Power Rangers.
I do want to throw out there, I would love to cover Chronicle at some point. I put it back on my Max, like my list, because there's something about that movie I just find so intriguing.
Oh, yeah,
but yeah.
Chronicle. We definitely should do Chronicle.
That's very interesting, though. Well, I'm sorry, what was that last part?
And the mix of them, it's Breakfast Club, Chronicle, and Power Rangers.
Okay. So, like,
yeah. But once they morphed, I was like, it now feels like Power Rangers. Throughout the movie, that they're like, I mean, we were giving so much flack about the teenagers with attitudes.
Yeah.
And then here comes this movie, and they're at this point really attitudes with teenagers. The amount of attitude that they have.
Yeah.
And as such, they're so angsty. But the instant that they morph, suddenly like they're quipping. Everybody's got their like jokes and one-liners. I was like, oh, this is more like what what you would think Power Rangers would be like.
I couldn't agree with you more, man, because it makes me think about, again, the teenagers with attitude thing, and how it never really felt like they had that attitude, that was never there, so it never really felt like there was a journey of character for those characters. It was like they are who they are, and this is going to be the way from episode 1 until episode last, until these people are leaving. And here it actually felt like a journey to get them to be, not to say that all of a sudden they get to the end of the movie and those attitudes are gone, but that you see them grow into the responsibility of being a Power Ranger, which is so cool.
Yeah. And I think to that end, that would be why I would have liked to see a sequel, just to see where that growth continued.
Yeah.
Didn't care so much about like the Tommy thing, but like it would have been an interesting concept to be like, oh, now Tommy is a part of this.
Yeah.
I mean, they got rid of Rita, so I don't know if there would have been an evil Green Ranger saga, whatever you want to call it, for like the second movie. But
didn't he only like slap her into space? Did she officially die out there?
No, she didn't die. She got launched into space, but I'm pretty sure she was unmorphed, right? I
just assumed that she would survive even the vacuum of space.
Oh no, she would definitely survive.
Okay.
I mean, especially considering everything that happens in that movie, like in the beginning part.
Yeah. No,
I mean,
yeah, because I guess there's the piece to consider with this, and that Rita is shown to have been a previous Ranger. Because another thing that we were joking about, I think, in the first episode of the whole retrospective, is that they all used to know each other, and then like one of them went bad, or one of them, went good, or how did this work out? But in here, it actually was that way. That she was a Ranger, so how does that work in contrast to the original
and it
story?
gave them a relationship that I think was just, it was never talked about. I can't say it was missing, because the show made it clear that there was animosity, at least between the two of them, but not so much like why there is.
Wouldn't it, thinking about that, like, wouldn't it be kind of cool, maybe not, follow me here, kind of cool if she still had the morph, even though she wasn't morph, during that battle, that she then handed that off to Tommy as a means to like infiltrate, and then he was evil like the entire time, and then it just so happens that he basically gets into the group, he dismantles that, and then because everyone knows, I mean, the memes have kept it timeless of just how much the Green Ranger ravaged them, and like what a better way to do that as far as just like letting him think that he's one of them, flip the script, and then you still get to have that journey of Tommy switching over to being a good Ranger. I mean, God knows how many movies that could span.
I guess in a like a post MCU started world, there could be multiple. Because in my mind, I'm thinking like Paramount or whoever ain't giving them that much money. But it would have been really interesting. I thought you were going to say it would have been interesting if like all the villains were previous Rangers. Like in that scene, it was like Rita, Zordon, Divatox, Lord Zed, and they were all Power Rangers. And then like one by one, they were about to start turning, but only Rita got to turn first. And then like that meteor came and just like wiped them all out. And you're like,
that meteor though was redirected there, right? So it's.
But I guess it's also supposed to infer that it is the one that took out the dinosaurs.
Which, by the way, we started snacking in on this bad boy. You want to go ahead and give the audience a whole like once over? Because especially for people who, I would imagine maybe there's not that many people listening that grew up and watched the original show, but then just never saw the movie. I would imagine if you were a fan of the show, chances are, even if you didn't like it, you gravitated towards the film, but just like a quick recap of some of that pieces. Because even if you know it vaguely, I would imagine people would normally think that Rita.
Oh yeah, definitely. You would think that Rita is supposed to be evil. Oh. So the 27 Power Rangers movie is basically the original. I want to say they're the original, but a long, long time ago, there were some Power Rangers who came to Earth. Zordon was the Red Ranger, Rita Repulsa was the Green Ranger, and a whole bunch of nameless people were the other ones. Rita turned on them, I guess, when they got to Earth, as they were searching for the Zeo Crystal. They found it. She was taking it for herself. Apparently, she was so powerful as the Green Ranger, she could fight all 5 of them by herself, which makes sense considering in the original show, Tommy literally jumped into the Megazord, knocked all of them out, and then proceeded to jump after them and beat them up one by one. So clearly the Green Ranger power is the strongest one out of all of them. To prevent her from getting away with Zeo Crystal, Zordon had Alpha 5 redirect a meteor into the Earth, which turned out to be the meteor that wiped out the dinosaurs. We move to present day. We begin to meet our teenagers. First is Jason. Jason is a bad boy here. He's the star quarterback of the Angel Grove High football team, which makes perfect sense in a Power Rangers world. He is with a friend. The two of them happen to be doing a prank on the rival high school team, doing something with a cow. Was it a bull, I guess, technically, and get caught. Instead of going to jail, Jason has to go to Attitude Kid School, where all the other delinquent kids are going to be for over the weekends. That is where we meet Billy and Kimberly.
That's where the Breakfast Club starts.
It's exactly
that's
the Breakfast Club.
Breakfast Club.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't you forget about me.
I literally said it's Mighty Morphin Breakfast Club Rangers.
I like that. I like that, dude. That sounds like a really good cereal.
That's what they should have called it. I mean, they wouldn't have got away with
Mighty Morphin
Breakfast Club cereal. So, Billy is more of a... Billy's supposed to have autism. I believe it does say it in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Kimberly is supposedly one of the it girls at Angel Grove High.
Kind of makes me think of a little bit of Mean Girls, like a little bit of Mean Girls.
So I can't tell if she was supposed to be a part of the Mean Girls, or if she was trying to like join the Mean Girls and they like turned on her. It's hard to tell. I think she's supposed to be the star, like the cheerleader to Jason's quarterback.
Yeah, because they all were cheerleaders, right? So, you know, you got the Amanda Seyfried and Rachel McAdams and Lindsay Lohan.
Mm-hmm. But, like, she didn't seem like she was, like... It seemed... Well, maybe she was one of the Mean Girls, and then the Mean Girls turned on her. I guess just like in Mean Girls.
Yeah.
So it's also Mean Girls. So it's Breakfast Club, it's Mean Girls, and Chronicle, and some Power Rangers. So she's there because... I forget her circumstance with it. I think it was pretty crazy. It had something to do with, like,
Yeah, hers, that it's something that you learn a little bit later in the movie, but hers it actually involves, I think it's like a very risque photo that she ended up sharing of one of the girls that was one of the other, I suppose, Mean Girls, whatever you want to call that group, that clique.
So she's there.
Or no, she actually, I'm sorry.
I thought she got
punched somebody in the face.
Yeah,
and,
I thought she
knocked a tooth out.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
because
that's
she was the one that
behind the
her picture was the one that they were circulating. Right? Okay, so they're all in detention, I guess we'll call it that, and Jason's on house arrest. But Billy says that if Jason can take him out to the quarry, that he will do something with Jason's house arrest bracelet to prevent him from being caught. That happens. They get to the quarry. Here we meet Zach and Trini. Trini is an interesting one because she doesn't always go by Trini. I'm not quite sure why they chose that. I guess it's because Actually, no, I'm really not sure why they chose that.
Do you think it has anything to do with like out of respect for the original actor that played Trini?
I mean, but you would think they would have just not chosen Trini at all, right?
And just go
like sometimes she's Trini and sometimes she's Dee Dee.
Yeah, I was gonna say Dee Dee, but I was like, that doesn't like. Where would that? How would you get one from the other?
And I don't.
Trini, Dee Dee.
I don't get that. But ultimately, Jason thought he was just gonna leave. He runs into Kimberly. So everybody's at the quarry at this point. Billy is looking for like specific rocks, and he decides to detonate a boulder to get at some rocks.
Insane.
Turns out that after doing that, he finds 5 rocks that for some reason these people begin to call coins.
Yeah.
That look nothing like coins. They are rocks. They continue to be rocks. They never get polished off to turn into coins. They stay rocks the entire movie, but they call them coins.
Do you think they just said it because they were the general shape of a coin?
They weren't even the general shape of a coin.
Yeah, they were circular, but they were huge. They were like
gigantic, and they were like oblong. They were not coins.
Yeah, but were like more like a Roman, like what I would imagine if
I think even a Roman's made
here's a Roman coin. Mr. Krabs, for what does that look? Can we get a picture of Mr. Krabs' first penny? I don't know.
They call them coins. They are all different colors, and it's very hard to tell that they're different colors, really, because it's nighttime.
Yeah.
But also the fact that one is blue and one is like
purple. Oh, so not quite that big, but yeah.
I mean, yeah.
You can see that and be like, "It's cool." I would think that was a will. That was
more, yeah. But the Rangers' coins were more like throwing rocks. Like they're the ones that you like skip across.
Oh yeah. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they picked them up and all 5 of them just like, well, I'll see which one who can throw it further.
But so they get these coins. The instant they get the coins, they like fall into this like underground water reserve.
Oh, that's not what happens.
Oh no.
Well,
they are about to get caught by the cops, so they leave. They leave and get hit by this. The chase is, first off, if you've not seen this movie, the point that I'm talking about is only about 20-ish minutes in. This is the second car chase.
Oh yeah,
by, like them getting chased by cops. In 20 minutes, and it's filmed almost the exact same way.
Yeah, it really is. For the
and both end in crashes.
Yes.
The first one with Jason is one of the slowest chases I've ever seen, but somehow he flips his car seemingly like 900 degrees before landing upside down. The second chase, where all of them are involved, they get hit by a train.
Mm-hmm.
That should be the death of them.
Yes.
However, they all apparently wake up on their own, fully unhurt.
Yep.
None of them actually remembering that they just got up and walked away.
Yeah.
But all of them got up and walked away like the ghost that they should be. And it is the power coin to blame. It has immediately given them powers.
Which is a crazy concept to me.
It would be.
Watch it again.
So it is, for the Mighty Morphin era, it seems weird. But if you've been watching Power Rangers since Disney had taken over, one of the things that just happened is they were really big on. They wanted to use so little suit footage because they really had to stretch that out, because they couldn't just like keep trying to they couldn't just make new like footage from Japan. So they would really stretch out the Japanese suit footage, and as a result, they would give the Rangers powers outside of the suit, kind of like a big bad Beetleborgs situation, in order to make it so that they like were out of suit and be able to do things more.
Yeah.
And this is really just like an extension of that. But in this case, this is more, and I think I even said it myself, because I got to add one more movie to the pile here. It became Mighty Morphin Spider-Man the movie.
Mighty Morphin.
So we're adding Spider-Man to the mix. So it's Spider-Man, Mean Girls,
Mighty
Chronicle, and then some Power Rangers.
Mighty Morphin Mean. Mighty Morphin Mean Power Rangers. The Chronicles of the Mighty Morphin Mean Power Rangers. And then it became That Love Spider-Man. I'm gonna write this down. Keep going. I'm gonna
make sure that we can. You just workshop that. So, much like in the first Spider-Man movie, after he gets bit by the radioactive spider, and he finds that like, oh, instead of having to wear glasses, I can see now. I'm all of a sudden much more ripped than I was before, much more powerful. That's exactly what happens here. Everybody realizes that they are better than they were beforehand, and much stronger than they were. And we find that out through scenes like Billy breaking the bully's wrist after he was trying to... he didn't break Billy's wrist. The bully was trying to break his wrist, but he couldn't. And he just punched him away.
He headbutt. The bully tried to headbutt. Billy was super pacifist about it. He like, headbutts him. And
was it Jason or Kimberly that broke the sink?
Jason breaks the sink.
Jason broke the sink.
And then... I think at one point in the cafeteria, the three of them, Kimberly, Jason, and Billy, put their coins on like the cafeteria tray line, and it causes an intense amount of heat that boils a lot of the sloppy Joe mix that they had.
So you find out later that both Trini and Zach are also attendants of Angel Grove High, but for some reason they just aren't there. They all decide that they're going to go back to the quarry. Luckily for them, Zach and Trini also show up. Then they fall into the water, and it's here that they eventually stumble upon the spaceship of Zordon of Eltar. They meet Alpha 5, the gangly robot servant friend of Zordon's.
He was everything.
And it's apparently he's stronger than them. So I don't know why they need... Why Alpha can't
just stop beating herself.
So...
I mean, he does kind of like clean them easily. Maybe that's just because they weren't trained.
I mean, but they also had their like strength, and he just like yanked Trini.
What is strength if you don't know how to use it?
Yeah. So something here happens, and I'm not sure if it's a slip up because I'm not 100% sure exactly what he says. So when Alpha does grab Trini and starts to pull her away, Zach yells out her name, Trini. Now, he either yells out Trini or Dee Dee. I'm not sure which one he says, but he does yell out her name.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't just say like "hey" or anything like that. To continue the scene, they meet Zordon. It turns out that Zordon thought he was dead as well, but Alpha could somehow only save him and only him, and not in the rest of the Power Rangers, and put him into what I'm going to call the Source Wall. I don't have another name for it, and it's essentially a wall of the... I don't know why he had to put him in a wall, but he put him in a wall of the spaceship, and somehow that kept him alive, and he can only be a giant face.
Yeah.
To give us the Zordon of what we know.
Their approach kind of reminds me of like, obviously not to the same degree, but the approach they took for like Jor-El and Man of Steel is almost kind of like a clone of his consciousness that is then able to give form within this wall.
But I think it's him though, not a clone of his consciousness, because he would have been able to be brought back to life.
So I guess I don't mean like it's exactly like the idea of the clone, but like just how Jor-El, that was not like Jor-El's consciousness, right? That was like almost kind of like a copy of his consciousness that was provided on the ship to help him adjust when he made his Earth, right? I just mean in a similar concept that it was like the consciousness of this character.
I guess, yeah,
sort of like embedded.
Yeah, it's just like it was the consciousness of Zordon, not his body. And I guess they were gonna I know Alpha wanted to keep the Zeo crystal away from Rita because they weren't sure if Rita died. But I'm also not sure if he thought the Zeo crystal would help them in getting Zordon back. Not quite sure. But after they meet Zordon and Zordon tells them about Power Rangers and stuff, they learn that they can't do that. So they all really kind of just choose to leave. Except for Jason, because Jason, played by Dacre Montgomery, has some heroicness in him, even though he's been a bad boy for most of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to hear Zordon out, and Zordon kind of tells him, hey man, only you can do this. Like, you can lead these guys and make them what they need to be. So then he goes out there to find that they're all just chilling at the water reservoir. And that's where Jason finally asks who Trini is. Because Trini's really been pretty curt with them. Out of all the teenagers with attitude, she kind of is the one with the most attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And as such, she's been pretty short with them and not really talking all that much. And it's at this point that Zach says that her name is Dee Dee. And then she corrects him and says that it's Trini. Now, I'm thinking he said when Alpha grabbed her, he yelled out Trini. So I'm not sure if, like, how he got a new name out of her if he didn't know it the first time.
But that's under the assumption that he said Trini the first time, not Dee Dee.
That's why I said I'm not sure if it's a slip up or not. I didn't have, like, closed captions on or anything like that, so I'm not sure, like, what was said there. And then they leave after Jason they're trying to figure out how to get back, because the water reservoir that they fell into, they were able to dive all the way down into and then pop out essentially at the bottom of it, which was just ground instead of water still. So they were trying to figure out how to get back up, and Jason just jumps up, swims away, and they're like, oh, that's what we were supposed to do. Which I thought was a nice little touch, that they were all like, he thought they were waiting for him as if like they were like, we need a leader. And they just didn't know how to get out until he got there. Eventually we run into Rita Repulsa. It turns out that she didn't die. Big surprise. She's just been at the bottom of the water, I guess.
Yeah, almost just kind of mummified, right, for a little bit.
And I guess we're also saying that the meteor that killed the dinosaurs crashed into what will become Angel Grove.
No wonder it's such a popular place. That whole real estate business.
Back then, I would have said that. In this movie, it
isn't like that at all.
It is the most hunky-dory, small. It's like a town in the upper northwest rather than being like a swanky Californian like
it's
Los
kind
Angeles
of like
replacement.
The general vibe of it makes me feel like if the show Sanford and Son took place in Seattle, and then they said, hey, let's film Power Rangers in the junkyard.
Just
the junkyard. That's what their Angel Grove.
Yeah, it was
looks like.
And it was so weird, like towards the end of the movie when they were like trying to like show like aerial shots. I was like, what are you showing these aerial shots for? No building in this town is taller than like 4 stories at most.
I think the tallest building may have been that donut shop. That Krispy Kreme.
The Krispy Kreme. I'm like, this your downtown? Like, goodness gracious. Rita also comes back. She launches, like, she kills this man to, like, basically bring herself back to life. And then proceeds to kill more people to get gold. And what I think is kind of the dumbest subplot that I could think of in terms of trying to do stuff.
So, I really want to go ahead and dive into the meat of this one, especially in particular.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like her Rita. I think that's one of the things that hurts this movie, is because I love, to your earlier point, like these are like attitudes with teenagers. Like they actually gave you characters that looked like they needed to grow, that you could, a story and a path that you could follow along with them, and it made it more real and grounded. But Elizabeth Banks's Rita Repulsa just seemed a little too hokey and campy. It seemed out of touch and out of place with the rest of the movie. So I find that, like, anytime she was on screen, I'm just like, ugh,
No, you're
kind of
not
waiting
wrong.
for this to be done.
You're not wrong. She just didn't she didn't really mesh with the rest of the movie itself. And it's kind of crazy considering I just said that there was a big giant face on a wall, and he somehow fit more than her Rita did. She's collecting gold to. If you've watched Power Rangers, but you somehow never watched this movie, and you've heard me now say gold, I think 4 times, gold a 5th time, she's creating Goldar. Yes, she's creating Goldar.
Yep.
From gold that she's been collecting, whether that's killing a man and taking it out of his teeth, taking it from a jewelry store. I don't know where she gets the rest of it, but
personally, just from the way that Godard looked, I thought Godard was a lion monkey man.
Goldar is a lion monkey man.
Yeah.
That Goldar was, I don't know what to, like, he was like the plasma dude from Killer Instinct, but melted with like some wings. He didn't have a face, and he should not have been called Goldar.
No.
Like, I don't know how they looked at, but I also hated the suits and the master, or the Megazord. So clearly the person tasked with designing the big stuff just sucked at it.
I don't think anybody reviewed anything they came up with. I think that they just took the first draft of every idea. We can dive into this. I don't know if you also want to talk about it now. We can dive into the suits, because I didn't mind the suits, but like the Zords and the Zords coming together, that Megazord did not.
The Zords
did not
were
cut it for me.
Awful.
They were
everything
didn't make any sense.
Like literally, if you look at Godar, you look at the Zords, and you look at the Megazord, they're all like designed by a man whose design philosophy was blobbish thing that might eventually, if you look at it enough, maybe resemble something that you know.
So you think he was like inspired by, what is it, the like Rorschach blotch? How you pronounce that?
He was inspired by like Slimer
from Ghostbusters.
Yes. So I just explained Godar. Now let me explain the other Zords. The Tyrannosaurus Rex, if you want to call it that, was more of just like, it was like a McDonald's toy version of the Tyrannosaurus Rex Megazord, just blown up and with nothing had distinct like detail in it.
Yeah. The T-Rex kind of gave me Brontosaurus vibes, to be honest. It was a very long neck.
The Mastodon had like 6 legs or something like that.
Yes, dude. Yes. You know what? That right there. And I didn't like it. It kind of course, this movie came out after, but the one we covered, Mickey 17, it kind of almost
like
reminds
the things
me.
From Mickey 17.
Like, does
yes.
not like look like a mammoth.
Like, then I was like, what is this supposed to be? The only one that resembled, I guess, would be the pterodactyl, because it flew. Everything else just looked like whatever it was supposed to, like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were supposed to form the Megazord. And the way they form the Megazord is so goofy. There's so many like incredibly close shots because they're quite clearly the person who designed the Megazord and the person who designed the Zords are not the same person, because it is clear that the 5 Zords do not make the Megazord.
It's also clear they just never watched a Transformers film.
No.
Because I think in that movie, I'm not saying Transformer, take them or leave them, but the CGI in those were pretty decent, especially for the time. And there was kind of like a blueprint, I feel like, for android giant robots fusing together. But
that's kind of the problem, though. Like, toward the later half of like the Transformers movies, when they transform, you kind of don't see what they transformed from anymore, and they really just kind of become like humanoid robots. And that's what the Megazord looked like. But as a result, it meant that you couldn't tell that if you just looked at that Megazord, you wouldn't think, and it was just one color, you'd have no clue that it was 5 things that became that one thing.
100%.
It would just look like a dude in like a metal suit. It looked like the guy from Tattooed Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills. And you'd be like, oh, okay. That's all right. But no, it didn't look like. And they were all in like not the correct place. If they were going for like the original concept, like the colors are just all over the place. And then that part took me out. I was like, I knew I didn't like the first time. I don't like it again. Now it's for the suits. The reason I don't like the suits is because they also seem to follow that ethos of just the least amount of detail possible.
The helmets.
Those helmets are god awful.
Yeah.
And they follow that stupid concept of the coin, which is just a rock. It's like everything that they are is made out of like rocks. And you're like, why? You had a budget. I don't know what the budget was. I should have looked that up, but you had a budget that was bigger than these episodes. And you let a bunch of Japanese people easily out-design you in terms of like making a suit that looks like a powerful entity. Instead, you just made like a blobby mess and put 5 colors on it. And they all look the same. None of them looked like they were different in any given sort of way. And you kind of just look at them. It had a production budget of $100 to $105 million. And that was what they came up with. I know budgets typically, they like are going towards things like people's like paychecks and stuff. But it ain't like you were paying Robert Downey Jr.
Well, they had that one dude from The Office. That one white guy.
Bill Hader? His voice?
No, not Bill Hader. Oh. No, Bill Hader was not in Office. The dude who played Jason's dad. I think that was Pam's ex-fiance before Jim. Yeah.
He brought in.
So he probably was $50 million.
I guess Bryan Cranston probably actually brought in like.
Yeah, Bryan Cranston. Yeah, that's true.
But speaking of that guy, so in my notes, I don't know what I was missing here. So in my notes, when the scene with Rita happens in the beginning, not the beginning, but like in the boat, I genuinely thought Fisherman Dan was Jason's dad the first time I saw this, and this time that I'm watching it now. And eventually they come back, and I was like, oh, Fisherman Dan is his dad. How did I not recognize that they were the same person? No, like, his dad he wasn't the one that got attacked by Rita. He's the one that found the dude that was attacked by Rita. It's his ship.
Yes. Yeah.
And so when he was talking to the police at the docks or whatever, I was like, that dude looks like his dad, but it's kind of, again, dark. The movie, for the most part, is either very dark or the sun is next to the earth.
Mm-hmm. Right next door, dude.
No, like, in between with this movie.
Yeah.
So when they showed him again in daytime, I was like, oh, he was the fisherman. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't even put the Office.
Yeah, that's
together.
That's actually the first thing I thought of when I saw him. Even back then, I was like, dude, that's one guy. I can't remember his name. I want to say Ron, but that doesn't feel. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about Parks and Rec. My mind's all over the place.
I don't remember that dude. I remember Parks and Rec very closely.
Oh, he wasn't in Parks and Rec, but like Ron.
Oh, yeah. I got you. I explained Power Rangers 2017. They win in the end. They knock Rita. Yeah. They beat Zordon, or they beat Godar, knock Rita away. And
Roy
David Denman. Yep, that's him. And then we get a teaser at the end where they tease that Tommy is now. Not only is Tommy here, but Tommy also is a bad boy because he's also in detention.
Yeah. Well, they all got to meet at the Breakfast Club.
They all got to, like, he's the last member of the Breakfast Club. He's the one that, like, I think he would end it with the arm up and the "Don't you forget about me." Now, notes. Things that I just couldn't not talk about.
Please, lay it on me. Baby girl, lay it on me. Power Rangers and baloney.
The sheer amount of times at the beginning of this movie that they can't not stop saying each other's full names.
Like Kimberly Hart.
It's Kimberly Hart. Jason Scott. It's Jason Scott.
Yeah.
Jason Scott. It was so annoying because it wasn't like it's like as soon as you noticed it, you couldn't not notice it because they kept doing it over and over and over again. And it was just like, why?
Billy crams tons of crayons, like whatever you.
Like what? Why?
Well, do they actually go and say Trini's last name? Well, I guess that's also part of the.
Trini and Zach are the only two
they don't
that do not get that.
Yeah.
And then I happen to noted the fact that like there is for so much in this movie very little Trini and Zach. It's very front loaded with Jason.
Exactly.
Kimberly,
which is something I was thinking about even so just a few minutes ago when it's the three of them in the cafeteria. That's who that scene is focused on. When it's going through and showing them wake up, it's really kind of just focused on showing Kimberly's experience, Jason's experience, and Billy's experience. Mm-hmm. Everything that's happening to them in school, at home, the cafeteria, it's the three of them together talking.
Mm-hmm. And then they finally do give you more of those two and like what they're doing when they're not with the other Rangers.
Yeah.
And it's like, you could have done more of that like throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like the whole concept of like Zach having like he's the way he is because he's dealing with a very sick mother.
Yeah.
That he's so scared that he's just gonna wake up one day and she's dead. And that's a hard thing. Like as someone whose mother passed away at nearly the same age and watching her go from this like robust, like energetic woman to a effectively just bedridden, unable to do anything, and having to watch that happen day by day, that hit me in a way that I was like, that could have just easily have been much more of this story and given you more as to why Zach hit it all by effectively being an asshole. I mean, we all have our ways of dealing with grief, and that was his way of doing it. Even if she wasn't dead, his way of hiding how he felt about that potential is like, that's another way of dealing with it.
Mm-hmm.
But no, let's parade around Billy, who is another kind of lowlight in my opinion, because, and I think I talked about this with you before, where I felt like rather than treating Billy's autism as a part of him and why, and just given that like it's time, but also being something that he deals with, it felt like the movie treated him as like, it treated his autism as an eccentric joke. And it's very much the way that I think before we really recognized like the ASD spectrum and stuff, like I say, autism spectrum disorder spectrum, that like how we treated ASD now, like how it was back in like the 80s and the 90s, where it was like, oh, you're just being weird. And it'd be one thing if throughout the movie, like they had just said, oh, he's being weird, but he himself states, like, I am autistic. But then you go about and like, oh, he's got to be the kid who arranges crayons and can't seem to get social cues down. And instead of saying like, and understanding like, oh, you know what, he can't get those social cues down, completely understand it. It was like they made those things out to be a joke. Because they also, like, I don't think Billy should have been both autistic and the, what do you call it, when everybody else is serious and one is the jokester.
Screech?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess you do get Screech. But comedic, like the comedic relief. Like, he should not have been both. You either give that to another person or you don't have it. But in this case, putting both of those two together made it seem like you weren't giving him the seriousness of being on the spectrum that you should have. Trini, again, like I said, she was the one with the most attitude, but it also felt like they didn't really explain why. Like, I believe she was adopted. I'm not sure if she was adopted or if she was not adopted, but...
I don't think she was adopted, but I think it was... I could be wrong on that. I don't think she was adopted, but I think it was the moving. It seems like, is she like a military brat or something like that? That they were just constantly moving to a different... And that's why she was always like, I don't even care to like bother get to know who you are, your names, because I'll probably just be gone in like 6 months.
Yeah, I guess so. Because I took that. I guess I took that as she just never knew, like she was going through fosters. But military, I guess it would make more sense. Her parents weren't really very parental of her. Her mother was kind of the, you're a problem child now, I'm just going to not deal with you. And the dad was also equally off hands. And that's all you got from her. But for some reason, I guess Rita saw herself in her. And
Thank you. Why the person that you've given like the least screen time to does Rita, like that's, but so the scene you're talking about, because like you said before, you know, we know it's the Power Rangers that they're going to win in the end. But before they have their final confrontation, or actually their second to last confrontation with Rita, she specifically visits Trini at home, like in her room, and just attacks her right then and there. But it's like, why? Why just Trini? Yeah.
Like the way the movie was setting up, it would have made so much more sense for her to go to Kimberly. But she chose Trini. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they were just like, well, we haven't given Trini anything really.
So let's throw it is something, like, as you talk through what everyone's going through personally, it always makes me, it makes something very cringy for me, because like some of the other people, even Jason, is like, you're kind of dealing with some serious stuff, but like, dude, Zach's situation, like you were saying, is like crazy. Like the whole movie could have just revolved around that. And I think Trini might be dealing with some identity issues, and of course Billy really is finally just now seemingly developing friends, and Jason is dealing with the reality. You can try to sweep it under the rug if you want, but you know, that's got to suck. Of course, it's the consequence of his own actions, but losing a future that was kind of like a shoe-in to be a great quarterback to go on, and now you got to reevaluate your life plan. And then Kimberly's like, I sent a picture that I shouldn't have sent. And I'm like, you might as well just left that out, because she was the one who seemed, she was the most apprehensive in talking about what her situation was. And like at first I thought, or at least I should say in hindsight, I was thinking maybe it's because she kind of feels that of all of other people's problems, that it's not as serious, so she doesn't want to compare. But it doesn't really seem that way when I watched it again, that it has anything to do with that.
No, she tried to make herself out like
the worst person.
Was the worst out of
dude,
all of them.
I'm like, no, I'm not saying it's right to send pictures like that. Of course, we didn't grow up during a time when that thing was, you know, your whole high school career hinged upon whether or not somebody would do that. But that's not, like, Zach's mom is passing. Like, this isn't something you can just. You probably weren't going to be friends with them after you left high school anyway.
Yeah, no, I didn't quite get that.
One was going to go to Ole Miss, and the other one probably going to go to a community college.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just didn't. Like, there were just some weird parts there. And so, another thing, again, I hated Goldar. I would have, instead of Goldar, I would have just had it be I think instead I would have just had her try to be excavating a monster. And then she excavates the monster at the end, and it's a good looking monster. I don't know what it'd be, but like, not Goldar. I would have instead, like, had it been that she was excavating a monster so that she could then get to the Zeo crystal, but also I would have put like something in there that made it seem like she was also trying to like contact like Lord Zed, so that Lord Zed could be the second movie's like antagonist. I think I would have kind of made him like a Thanos, like the Thanos of the Power Rangers cinematic universe.
That would have been nice. It also, as you were talking through that, I was thinking about just having them fighting against a very much larger army of putties and how cool that could be. And then it made me think about the design of the putties, and I immediately thought, damn, this dude literally just said that the design artist is just a fan of blobs. Because they were literally
those rock
blobs.
monsters that were just
yes, that they were just rock monsters. They were just it's like if you were just walking down the street and like some cement blocks that somebody had on their sidewalk just happened to just roll together and say, dude, you can't walk on this sidewalk. That's what it was.
Yeah.
That's what their putties were. And like you could have gone with a far better design, I think, than that. But it would have been so cool to have a scene, I think, where I know these scenes are kind of getting played out, but I still enjoy them. Like a side-scrolling them against a whole army of putties. Because I think even Forever Red episode did that side-scrolling scene.
Mm-hmm.
But having all 5 of them like tag team and going through and pushing through an army of putties like that would just be so cool. Not to say that we didn't get what we got, because like finally seeing them come together was like so cool. Which actually, touching upon a thing that I also had a criticism for was how long it took.
Yeah, it should have happened much earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
I don't think we needed that like montage of them like failing, along with like the goofy like, let's fight over this cake.
Dude. That's what you do.
Like,
if we ever get superpowers, if we're going to IHOP and we're just gonna like, have one piece of pancake. Yep.
You're gonna wait. What is wrong with you?
You can order more.
Billy dying.
Ooh.
So that whole part should have just been chucked out the window. You didn't really. I think the person writing this movie, I feel like as they were like writing it, they must have thought their pen was on fire. They thought they were just cooking with this script, and they were not. And I think they really thought they was cooking. Like, man, Billy is the heart of this. Everyone is going to be so sad when Billy dies. And I was like, it is a Power Rangers movie, and you've clearly shown me that there is a Triceratops Zord in this movie. Billy ain't dying. And sure enough, Billy is brought back. They decide, Zordon decides that this team is enough to be able to stop Rita. He doesn't need to come back. They need Billy, because Billy is the heart and soul of this team. And he comes back to the raucous nothing applause of just Billy's back, and then proceeds to just end the movie. The movie goes on like pure rails after Billy comes back, and it screeches to its end in like the next like 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I think it literally is like the last 15-20 minutes of the movie. A lot happens.
I don't know why they, like I said, that part could have just, like, honestly, they should have became Rangers in the middle of this movie. They could have then they could have had a good fight with the putties, even maybe fought Rita, and then Rita like gets the better of them, gets Godar, then we get the Zords.
Mm-hmm.
You could have saved us a lot of time.
Yeah.
And a lot of what you thought was what people wanted.
Yeah.
That being said, though, I really like this group. And I honestly think that if they could have paid these kids, I would have just made a season like right after this movie came out with these kids. In fact, I'd have been like, fuck like a second movie. First episode is these kids with Tommy, and just made a new Power Ranger season, because they worked very well. Like, all 5 of them acted very well. Each one you could believe could have been a Power Ranger at any given time. Like Zachary Montgomery could easily have been a Red Ranger in any Power Ranger season.
Yeah.
Honestly, they all kind of been like Red Rangers. I think that Zach's actor, I think his name is Ludi Lin.
Yeah.
Really good. Like I said, his part, I think because I related to it, I felt really strongly with him and how he acted. Turns out that he tried to go for Shang-Chi.
Really?
Yeah. So that would have been interesting.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
I think he also tried to go for Spike Spiegel in the Netflix.
I feel like the only thing he doesn't have is like the height. He's like, I always think of Spike Spiegel as being very tall,
like a tall,
gangly.
lanky.
Yeah.
I mean, they chose John Cho, so.
Yeah, I have no idea how. Yeah. No, I mean that's fair, but yeah, I really did love Zach's. I love Zach's character arc in that movie because he did have that very just kind of like aloof. You didn't know why, but then there was that switch, and you saw that other half of it, and then it just made everything make sense. And in that moment, you were just like, dang, okay, well, just giving you that dichotomy of, like you were saying before, that he's using that to mask a lot of his grief, a lot of his pain ahead of that, and the fear that he has is pretty powerful. Pretty powerful. So a lot of this means, I think, so much more to him, to all of them. But yeah, I really also enjoyed this group, which is why it was so disappointing to know that they weren't going to get a sequel. And it's something that like makes me so frustrated sometimes, and I know that this is just going to happen, but like when you know now that so much of the possibility of furthering a story and having sequels and turning something into a TV show is going to be predicated upon the success of that initial launch, it just sucks when you start to hear about it not doing all that well, especially when it's something that, again, that I just wanted to see very much how it would grow. Definitely to your point, more of halfway through the movie, I would like to see more of them doing that. But having the ability to explore the Zeo crystals, I was excited. I was excited. I'm not saying I didn't leave that theater like, man, this was perfect. But I was like, there's something there I want to see.
There definitely was, and it's interesting that they even brought the Zeo crystal up so early.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay,
they didn't even get the ninja stuff yet. Come on, man.
It's really interesting because the movie has the confidence of a movie that thought it was getting a sequel. For it to not get the sequel, probably a gut punch. But it really did have that. Like, I was just like, hey, you already talking about the Zeo crystal? That didn't happen for like a Grit in the original Power Rangers. And you make it seem like that would have been the next movie.
Yeah.
It would have been like, we're talking Zeo right
it's like,
now.
Dang, dude, they just morphed. They were going to get their powers taken away?
Like, hey, what happened to them?
Yeah.
Hey, was somebody going to come and take them? Or are they just going to be like, we're moving the Zeo now? But other things that I liked, just real quick, because I wanted to talk about this, but I forgot earlier. Zordon being the Red Ranger, I thought was a really like novel concept, because I know I believe in the Boom Studios comics, he either was the Red Ranger, the original Red Ranger, or is known as like a Morphin Master or something like that, which is like the comics concept of like an ethereal form of like a color. So like they try to like give a story throughout like the concept of the Morphin Grid, why people like colors exist. It's like, why is there always a Red Ranger? Why is there things like that? So like the Morphin Masters are like the embodiment of the colors of the Morphin Grid. And I think Zordon was one of them. But this made it so much better because it made the belief that there's a reason for Zordon to be the way he is. In the movie, it makes perfect sense that he wants to get back to being the Red Ranger. Because I would imagine a Power Ranger would want to be back to being a Power Ranger, especially if they're trying to stop Rita Repulsa.
Right.
But in this case, it's like, cool. He was the original Red Ranger. He's a Power Ranger, so he knows what this was about. Instead of being this just Charles Barkley head in a tube that tells like grabs kids and tells them to like put themselves in danger. Like he in the movie, he knows the danger because he experienced it.
Yeah.
But you don't get that from the original Zordon because you're told he's a morphological wizard named Zordon who got trapped in a time dimension, and now he's got to be stuck in this tube.
Who really gives like no second thought to handing over this?
And he gave it to like a 12-year-old.
Power.
He doesn't.
Yeah, dude. He just doesn't care who it is.
Yeah. So like, and I think I was telling you before about like in the comics how in the 60s he created a team of Rangers because the Green Cycle Ranger was trying to like access Rita on the moon, and so he created a team of Power Rangers who were teens, sent them up to fight the Green Cycle Ranger, and like several of them died. So like that should, like, of course in the show they're not going to talk about that, right? Like it's a kid show. They're not going to be like, he just constantly is sending kids to their like to dangerous, like just because he gave them powers don't mean that they like know what to do with them.
Yeah.
And here it's like he understands, like even though they lucked upon, I don't even want to say luck, they came upon the powers, he didn't choose them.
Mm-hmm.
He knew whether they would be capable of doing it or not because he himself had done it,
Right?
Which I thought was a cool concept. And so Bryan Cranston has ties to Power Rangers because he did voices for several monsters in the original series. His Zordon left a lot to be desired, mostly because they didn't utilize him all that much.
Right.
And I'm not like Red Ranger Zordon, but like post, like head in the wall Zordon. And I wish there were more things like that, like him being Zordon, or more of Zack, maybe some more of Trini. I get that they thought they were going to get a sequel, so they thought they could really just backload those characters for like the next movie or something like that. But even as we talk, because we're trying to create stuff on our own, you gotta treat the first thing like it's the only thing you're gonna get, because you really don't know if you're gonna get more.
Yeah.
And I really do think this movie should have been written in a way that it understood that it could be the only thing that would come out.
Yeah. No, that's a very valid point. But at the same time, I would think, like, if we were to look back at a series of, because I think this movie might be just at maybe about 100 minutes, either a little bit over, a little bit under. But if you were to look at, that would maybe be the equivalent of like 5 Power Ranger episodes. Like, how much time in a series, like 5 back-to-back Power Ranger episodes, would you spend like honing in on Zordon? But here, like, is it comparable time? Is it that you would have maybe wanted to just see more of him being able to be the Red Ranger, as opposed to maybe just like through flashbacks or like a more drawn out opening scene?
I actually would have rather seen more of him as head in the wall Zordon, because we didn't see him get adjusted to that.
Mm.
When he woke up, like, he was suddenly head in the wall Zordon. The last thing he knew was he had been fighting Rita. So him having to come to grips and understand, like, this is my place now.
Yeah.
Like, that would have been growth alongside the Rangers.
Yeah. Yeah, because that can't be easy.
Yeah,
and knowing that you can't move, like, this is it.
You just gotta get there now. You can move your head.
Yeah, you can slide your head.
But that's about it.
Yeah, dude, like a paper cutter or something, man. You could just slide to the left or slide to the right, crisscross. You can't even do that.
You just
can't clap your hands.
The only thing you can see is Alpha and like occasionally some teenagers that stumbled upon you.
Yeah.
It's
How did you feel about them coming across it and not necessarily being chosen, or do you look at it as a event of fate?
I think them stumbling across it as opposed to being chosen makes sense for that movie. It would have been very weird if they were all breakfast clubbing it up and then just got like teleported to the command center.
Mm-hmm.
It fit with that like Chronicle-ness that I was talking about. Like, that's, to me, that was the Chronicle part. Them like stumbling upon this power and then having to come to grips with it. Whereas if they were just chosen, that would have meant that it was preordained. That in this case, they all needed to grow into earning that power.
Yeah.
As opposed to it being like, oh no, you 5 are just destined to have it because you had it inside you the whole time. You were always a Power Ranger. This suit
You
just
didn't know it. Yeah.
it made so much more sense. And sometimes that happens in Power Rangers. Usually, like sometimes they're chosen, sometimes they just stumble upon the power. That it fit better with this team for it to be them stumbling upon it.
But within the context of the story, it did like maybe think of like an Elseworld situation where it wasn't coincidentally 5 teenagers that happened to pick up, luckily, their respective
I mean, to be
colors
honest,
and coins. Like, what if Jason was like, I really like yellow, and just picked up?
Oh, and they chose like different colors.
Yeah, just
So I think, and I don't think it would have mattered. I think that
it would have just changed.
oh, would
So
they
that's-
like? No, I think like if they were there like different colors, for them 5, I don't think it would have mattered. Like if Kimberly were red and Trini were blue and Zach was pink and Billy was like yellow. Like I don't know. I think that in this case, I think they probably would have argued because it would have made fun.
Like Zach having Ranger, and, yeah, obviously, which they did with between the blue and the black Ranger.
Yeah, but which is so goofy that they like. I understand.
Hey,
I completely understand the meme, but that was gonna happen. Like, it is what it is. A black dude was the Black Ranger. The Asian woman was the Yellow Ranger. They didn't set out to do that. It was like casting was like, we need a black dude to be the Black Ranger. We need this Asian lady to be the yellow.
So much as you know.
No, that's so like in Saban's original pitch for what he would eventually call Power Rangers, he had Miguel Nunez as Zach. And Zach was, in his original pitch for Bioman, would have been Green Ranger, which made him the second from the yellow or from red. So when that got moved to like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the character of Zach just then became the Black Ranger. As for picking who he chose, Walter Jones himself has pretty much said that when he auditioned, the goal was for everybody to audition in like groups, and then they were chosen out of the groups. So one group had people who could do martial arts. Another group had people who just kind of had like random abilities. And then the third
you mean like
group,
dancing or something?
no,
Like,
because he was in like, so he could dance, but he portrayed enough martial arts to get into the martial art group. The third group was just like, it was really leftover because the main 2 groups were the martial artist and the gymnast.
Damn, dude, like Thanksgiving dinner, huh?
And so they knew that they wanted to grab some gymnasts, which is why they chose David and Amy. And then they chose Jason, even though I don't think Jason was the original choice for the Red Ranger. I think he was the second one. Zach would have, if they magically have chosen Walter before they chose Austin, then he would have been a Red Ranger. But because they chose Austin before they chose Walter, he got relegated to the second one because they already knew that there was no way that Walter would have been able to be Billy. And Billy, from all the way back in Bioman, was always the Blue Ranger. And Billy was always the one that was supposed to be like the tech geeky person. Which David could do easily, as opposed to Walter, who would have been far too like cool to be like geeky in that way. So he kind of just fell into the Black Ranger role. And as for Twee, she was in the martial arts group, I believe, as well. And so with Kimberly always being kind of like the Daphne of the group, it made sense for it to be Amy as opposed to Twee, who just happened to then be relegated to the Yellow Ranger role. So when they did it, they weren't thinking to themselves, because obviously before Twee, it was an entirely different person who was Hispanic. So if that's the case, then it would have, like, she would have just naturally fallen into that role regardless. That being said, though, they didn't want to fall into that again, so they flipped them as quick as possible. They pulled a Rocky and Adam. They're like, yeah, gotta switch these up, or not Aisha and Adam. Yeah, they gotta flip the.
Okay, I was gonna say that was Rocky and Adam.
Flip the two real quick.
Yeah. Did you have anything else that you didn't touch upon, or?
No, I went through my notes. Like I said, I don't remember any of the music.
Yeah,
it was all afterthoughts. What did you have? Anything else you wanted to talk about?
Really, just kind of reiterating. I would highly recommend watching the film if you haven't seen it. It might be disappointing. I don't know how you will feel about it, but if you enjoy it, obviously it'll be a little bit disappointing that there is no follow-up to it, but still, trying to look at and even just imagine what potential was there. It would have been a fun time.
Yeah, it definitely would have been. And also, I would say, like, if you, like, give Power Rangers itself just a go, if you haven't seen any of Power Rangers, it's definitely a campy time, but there's some funness in there. I would implore you to give any of the seasons a go.
I implore you to reconsider. But as always, we were very, very thankful for your time listening to us talk about what we love. Please remember, if you made it this far, again, thank you. But also remember to hit that like button, subscribe, share. It does wonders here for us, so we very much appreciate your support in any way that you can provide it.
Definitely if you can. And this has been Damon.
And this is Farron.
And this is Panharmonicon Presents a podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks. See you in the next one.
Panharmonicon presents a podcast.